Hello YouTube, I'm APC, and today I'm making another tutorial for you guys. Today I'm making another tutorial as part of my swing series, and today's tutorial is going to be about tic-tac-toe. We're going to learn how to make tic-tac-toe in Java using swing. And tic-tac-toe is an example of a game you can make in swing. It's one of the ones that works out fairly well, actually. So today we're also going to learn some new concepts to add to our repertoire after the previous few tutorials, and those concepts are layouts and action listeners. Layouts are very useful. Whenever you add new components to the room, what layout you have decides exactly where and how it's added to the room. So that's very useful. And then we're also going to learn about listeners, or action listeners in particular. Listeners, whenever you have a program reacting to user input, it's using listeners. So listeners are listening in to what's happening on the individual components, and it makes stuff happen based on that. So we're going to use the action listener, which is used to respond to buttons and other swing components. So that's all for right now. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my class. Public class tic-tac-toe, and then set up my method, because that's what's going to be in here. Static void main string guards. Now, this is going to be our frame. So we're going to go ahead and have this extend JFrame, and now I'm going to go ahead and make our panel. JPanel P equals new JPanel. Panel is going to contain all of our buttons for our tic-tac-toe thing. By the way, maybe you'd be interested to see what our finished products can look like, and I'll just go ahead and show you. So this is what our finished products can look like. We're going to have a bunch of buttons set up, and when you click them, it's going to change. Click on the second time will be circle. Alright, so that's what we're going to be making. Just thought I'd show you that real quick. Alright, so our JPanel is going to contain all the buttons that we're going to be able to store the X's and the circles, and that's what our panel's for. So let's go and import our frame in panel. Import javax.swing.jpanel. By the way, fun fact, you know that Java X stands for Java extension? It's an extension with a lot of extra cool features, including swing. And JFrame. Alright. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and create our 9 buttons. It's not going to be the standard button. You might notice that I have an XO button class set up here. We're going to program that in a second, but for now we're going to go and make new objects of it. So XO button. This is going to have our this is going to store all of our buttons they interact with, and this is going to be an array because we're going to have 9 of them. So new XO button and 9, because we're going to have 9 of them. Alright, so we don't want to reference this from a static context. I actually made that mistake when I was making this. So we're going to go ahead and create a new version of it, new tic-tac-toe, and then we're going to go ahead and set up the constructor, public tic-tac-toe. Alright, step 1, call the super, the constructor method of our parent JFrame, and we're going to set title, tic-tac-toe, and let's see, set size. Let's make it 400 by 400 because we want it to be square, because it's going to be, it's going to be set in a square grid. And in my original tutorial, I said there's a couple things needed set up, and one of them I actually forgot, which is set default close operation. It's easy to forget. because you don't really notice the problem right away. But when I was in my original tutorial on swing, what happened was I'd close it out, the window would close, but it wouldn't close in command prompt, which meant the program was still running even though it was invisible. So that's why this is important, to make sure the program actually closes when you close the window. Alright, and I'm still probably forgetting one, but let's go and do the set visible thing. Visible and true. And I just thought of something. Let's change whether it can be resized or not. So resizable. Set that to false. Actually, you don't want it to be resized because then you get weird rectangular, and we don't want that. Okay, I think this is about everything. Now for the new stuff. We're going to set the layout. So everything's going to be inside our J panel, so we're going to set the layout inside the panel. So p.set layout, new grid layout, and that's 3,3. So we're creating a new object of grid layout, which is going to be the grid layout that's going to be applied to our program. And this particular layout is going to be set to the panel. So anything that's added to the panel from now on will be aligned according to this layout. Now, layouts are always present in Swing. If you don't set one, the default is actually flow layout. Flow layout is where first object you add will be placed in the top left, then they'll move right until it can't move right anymore, then it'll move down a row. Basically just like in the same order that as if you're writing on something. So that's how flow layout is, but this is grid layout that we're going to be using. Let's go and import that. So import javax dot or java.awt.grid layout. Notice that this isn't part of Swing class, which means that you can actually use this layout without using Swing. I don't really know how, but that's interesting. So let's go and add our buttons. For int I equals 0, I is less than 9 for our 9 buttons, and I increment. We're going to go and add each of our 9 buttons. So first things first, let's create them, because this only creates slots for the 9 buttons. It doesn't actually create them. So buttons I, that index of the array, equals new XO button. And we're going to set up the constructor to take nothing. And then we're going to go and add that particular button to the panel. So that gets it to be p.add. And then we're going to add the panel to the room. And that is all for our tic-tac-toe class. We just need to set up this XO button class to be able to change images when you click on it, because we already got it added. Now we're going to set this up, public class XO button. And this is going to be a lot like the J button. We're going to make some changes to it. So we're going to go and say extend J button. And of course, we have to import J button. Import java x.swing.j button. Okay. Set up our constructor. You don't need a main method for this one because it is not the driver class. It's not what starts the program or other classes. No parameters for the constructor. Don't need to worry about that. And let's see, how shall we start this off? Alright, so all this thing needs to do is needs to have an image set up, and when we click on it, it needs to scroll through its images. So we're going to have 2 variables, image icon x, and well, we're going to have 2 image icon variables, image icon x and image icon 0. And these are the images that we're going to use for x and 0 respectively. Image icon is basically a nice thing in Swing, which creates an icon that'll take care of a lot of things for you, like it'll keep track of the dimensions of that particular image and it'll hold it there for you. You won't have to call it from the computer every single time. So we're gonna go ahead and import image icon as well. And that's swing.image icon. Okay. Now we're gonna need a variable which represents which image we're currently on. Are we on nothing? Are we on X? Or are we on 0? Or circle? So those are only 3 values, so we can almost use Boolean. Boolean requires 2, so we need to move one up from Boolean, which is byte. Byte is even though it's the smallest number type we have, it's still overkill because it can store like 128 different values when we only need 3. But anyway, int value is equal to 0, and let me just make a comment here explaining how I'm going to set this up. 0 would be nothing, 1 would be X, and 2 would be circle. Alright, first in constructor, we're going to give these X and 0 variables values. So we're making new image icon, and right here we need the URL of the image that we want it to represent. Now I have over here in my directory, I have these 2 images. I have the circle right there, and I have the X right there. So these are stuff I threw together in Paint.net. And so we need the URL for that one, or the where it's located. And the way we're going to find it is we're going to say this.get class. This will give us the folder that the program is located in, and this will grab a resource from that folder. Okay, and the resource we want to grab is x.png. At least that's what I called mine. If you made yours something different, you would call it something different, obviously. Copy that and paste it over here. And we'll go with the same process for O, or circle. So just place X's with O's, and that's all for that. Next, we're going to need to set up action listener. I mentioned in the intro how action listeners work, sort of. The way it works is, okay, how should I go about explaining it? Okay, listeners in general. When you perform acts, like when you press the button, there's no one around to hear it. It's sort of like that whole paradigm of, or the paradox, I guess, if a tree falls in the middle of nowhere and no one's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound. Well, that's a paradox in computer science as well, because if someone presses a button in the middle of nowhere and you don't have anything to hear it, doesn't make a sound, we don't know. So we need to make sure we have ears there to listen in on it. We need that. That's why we need a listener. So the listener we're going to use is action listener. Import that. java.awt.event.action listener. Alright. And we're also going to need event as well, but I'll explain that later. .event.action event. Bingo. Action listener is an interface, so we need to go and implement that. That's saying that we are a certified action listener because we implement that interface. Implement. There you go. Action listener. There you go. And to make us certified implementers of action listener, we need to have the methods from action listener. Action listener has 1. Some other listeners have like 2 or 3 or even more than that. So, but the one for action listener is public void action performed. Make sure you spell that exactly the way I did, otherwise it's not going to work, because this method is one that we're implementing. And it has 1 parameter, action event. That is the event that occurred. Like if it's a button, the only thing that can happen is if you press it. But if, like for instance, if you're working in the key listener, then the event could be different depending which key you press. That's the whole point of this, really. Alright, So now we need to do the whole thing I was talking about earlier about adding an ear somewhere to trigger. So we're going to say add action list enter this. If you created the button from this class, like in this case we are the button, so we're adding it to ourselves. But if we were like in this this class and we added a button, we wanted to listen on the button, then we would say or that we would say v dot, or in this case we are the one who's triggering the action and we are also listening in on it. That's what this thing is. It's saying who's triggering it and who's listening in on it. We're listening on it because we're the one who has it implemented and we're the one that has this thing to it. Alright, so this will ensure that it triggers when you press the button. So now when this triggered, we want it to scroll through our values. Alright, so we're going to increase value by 1. Okay, so if it's 0, increase to 1, if it's 1, it'll increase to 2, if it's 2, increase to 3. But if we don't want it to increase to 3, we want it to go back to 0. So if that happens, or just to be sure, we're going to say value mod equals 3. So this will, mod, I actually have a tutorial talking all about mods because it's quite a significant thing that I don't really talk about much in schools, but what this is basically saying is if it's more than or equal to 3, keep subtracting 3 from it until we're at, or till we're below 3. So if the value is equal to 6, or okay, that's more than equal to 3, let's subtract 3 from it. Alright, now it's 3. It's still more than equal to 3. Let's subtract 3 from it again to 0. So if 6 percentage sign 3 would be equal to 0. Alright, so this will just make sure that this has the effect of bringing it back down to 0 after we've exceeded 2. Alright, so now let's set up our image again based on our values. So we're going to use a switch. This way we'll be able to test it based on whatever is in our value. Now if you really study your syntax, you know that only integers work with switch. We have a byte here. But that works because since integer is more general than byte, we can use a byte here. But if you were trying to use a long variable in here, it probably wouldn't work. So we have multiple cases. When it's equal to 0, do that. When it's equal to 1, do that. And when it's equal to 2, do that. Alright? When it's equal to 0. So that's when we have nothing. We're going to use set icon, and I looked in the API before this to figure it out, and set icon is a method inside the JButton which will work. Or actually, it's not located inside JButton, it's located one of the parents of JButton, abstract button to be specific. But that's where the set icon is located, and it does exist. I looked it up. So there you go. What should we set it to? You have to put an image icon there to what we want to set it to. Well, if we have nothing, then we want it to be null, because we want it to be set to nothing. Okay. Now we're going to say break. This is very important when we're working with switch, because if you don't say break, it'll keep moving on. In this case, I guess it doesn't matter, but a lot of times you have a default thing at the end, and if you don't put break there, it'll keep checking things until it reaches default, and then it'll always run the default. But just a good habit to keep. Alright, so case 1, that's when we have x. Let's say set icon, and we want to set equal to x, our image icon x. And the semicolon goes outside. There you go. And break. And when it's equal to 2, we're going to set icon to circle or 0 or O or whatever. Then we're going to break again. And that is all for this tutorial, basically. It should work. Well, obviously there's probably going to be a glitch, and I'm running the program still. But now I can compile it, Java C, tic-tac-toe.java. That worked first try. That's quite amazing actually. It doesn't happen very often. Now, one thing that I meant to talk about this for all my swing tutorials, but I forgot to do my first two, so I'm going to start off now. You can add splash screens. It's kind of fun. You can do it from the command line. Before you type down, normally say Java tic-tac-toe, but before that you say dash splash semicolon, and then you put the file that you wish to show up at your splash screen. So for me that's tic-tac-toe.png. Just a fun thing, kind of cool. So now when I press enter, it won't be there for long, but it'll show a splash screen just for a little bit. There you go. You can see it just for a little bit. Little thing I threw together. Cool, right? Alright, here's the thing we just threw together. And here is our program working fairly nicely. As you can see, it goes resets once we reach once value reaches 2. So that means this modular thing works quite well. And now you can play tic-tac-toe with your friends and swing if you want to. It's a lot of fun. So I guess it'll go something along the lines of this tick. Okay, you go, let's see, I'll go here. Alright, I'll go here. Oh, I see what you're doing there. Caught that. Alright, see if you catch this. Oh, I speak myself. There you go, excellent. So, to make this better, you'd probably want to add logic to, check who's winning and then make it alternate turns. But I'll leave that to you. I'll let you try and figure that out, because that's nothing to do with swing. That's all about logic and that kind of stuff. So, but I think I'm going to make a tutorial about that anyway. So I challenge you to do it on your own, and if you have trouble with it, I'm going to have a tutorial about that coming up. Link in the description. Alright, so done. Now for the rest of the... So, as I said in the beginning, this is part of my swing series. If you wish to watch the rest of them, I have links to all of them up on the screen. I should have like 8 of them or so at the end. So they're all about making cool programs in swing and a lot of cool options. That's it. Thanks for watching this tutorial. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. I always enjoy hearing your feedback. It's always very helpful to me. I read all of the comments and try to use them to make my tutorials better. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.